Hello everyone. How are you all doing today? Thank you for being a part of today's focus group on developing customer foundation with Zoho CRM's wizards, multiple sales pipelines, and review process. I'm Sushmita from the Zoho community and I'll be walking you through the session today. With me, I've got Roshni from our product management team who takes care of multiple sales pipeline. I have Abhilash from the PM team as well, who will be taking our questions on the review process, and Eben, who will be taking our questions for wizards. We have a Q&A session towards the end of today's focus group, but you can ask the questions as the session progresses using the chat interface. We've had to pre-record this webinar to avoid technical difficulties as much as possible. However, if we do face issues during the session, please be kind as to let us know in the chat box and we'll rectify it as soon as possible. Here's a look at what we'll be covering today. We'll discuss what multiple sales pipelines, wizards, and review processes are. We'll discuss how each of these features fit into your business processes. We'll discuss each of their different components, and then we'll look at how we can implement them in Zoho CRM. That will be followed by a Q&A session. Be it purchase forms, insurance forms, or even admission forms, nobody likes to sit for a stretch scrolling endlessly and filling out a form. Now, generally about 80% of form fillers just leave midway. 80% is quite a chunk. Now, when you have to add your deals into CRM, you do not have the luxury of the choice of leaving midway. So what can we do to make this process easier? We can cut down that hassle and juice up the efficiency into this process. It would be heaps easier to have a series of short forms that save information as a draft as the form is filled. Now, Wizards does exactly this. Let's take the example of a real estate company. You're a sales agent and you have to type in details of your customer. Now you have a record details page that runs endlessly. You have your customer's personal information, shipping, billing addresses, payment details, additional requirements, and a whole lot of other stuff. All of this fit into a single page. Also cluttered with fields that you do not need to fill for every single kind of deal. Whether they are a buyer or a seller, whether they are looking to purchase or rent, whether they are looking for 5 bedrooms or 2, the list goes on. Now, in this case, you'll have to search for fields you do have information for, and you can't just up and leave for a bit. With wizards, you get to split these into a series of shorter forms in a seamless sequence of categories. Now, before we get into creating a wizard, let's look at its different aspects. We have our field, our components, and different types of buttons that can be edited based on visibility and style. And we can also trigger actions for these. We'll discuss more about this as we get into the demo. For today's wizard creation, our example will be that of a real estate agent. So the deals that enter our CRM can be either that of a seller or a buyer. Sellers and buyers have different requirements and hence different information fields that we'll need to update. So let's go into our CRM and see how this works. You'll find your wizards under Settings and Customization. Now let's put this to good use. You can find your wizards under Settings and under Customization. Rightly so, as wizards let you customize your forms. And create a wizard. Enter your wizard name. I've chosen my real estate form, but you can, for my real estate layout, but you can choose it for the layout as you wish. Double click to create your first segment. Now, our first segment will include all the basic information for the deal that's not specific to any of the later segments, that is for buyer information or seller information. All the fields that are specific to these can be added in our consequent forms. So I'm going to name this form basic information. So I'm naming both my form, my screen name and my segment title basic information here. And now we can start adding our fields. Now, all the fields, sections and subforms that you have added to the layout that you chose for this wizard will be available here. You can also use the search bar to search for the fields that you want. And you can also add components. So with wizards, you can use a single line component here. You can add up to 5 of these, and you can also add a widget for a screen. So for my basic information, I'm going to add my basic fields, opportunity name, stage, closing date, opportunity owner, amount, lead source, email ID, let's see, account name, contact name. Let's add our contact name here. Yeah, there we go. And we'll also add our phone number field. There we go. So that looks like a decent basic information form. Now let's move on to adding buttons. Okay. So with respect to buttons, you can add up to 10 buttons for a single form. You can use only one button to link a screen. Now, depending on the action that you want these buttons to perform, you can name them. So if you have only one and just that one form, you can add a save button over here. But since I'm adding multiple forms to link to this one, I am going to skip that for now. If you want to redirect it to a single form after this one, you can add a single button. But since we have forms for buyer information and seller information, I'm going to add two. For our example, in a real estate agent, they handle deals from both sellers and buyers, hence the buyer form and the seller form. So my first form is my seller information. So now you have this option to use this button to save the record. Now you can use this if that the button we are using here is the end of the form, the end point of this form. But since we are having another form after this, I'm going to skip this for now, but I will show you how you can use a button to save the record. You can change your visibility over here. You can choose to always show or hide the button or even disable the button. I'm going to go with always show. I'm going to change the style a bit. You can choose colors that you'd like, maybe perhaps a red color if the form is crucial, and actions. Now we have three types of actions. You can create an email notification. For example, say you want to say an email should be sent to the deal owner or the deal owner's manager for when the record is created. You can use this for the button. Or you can also add webhooks if you like, or you can add in your custom functions to customize actions here. If you can check the community for delete scripts that are available, but I'm going to go with no actions for now. So I'll also create my second button, which is for my buyer information. Same style. And there we go. And I'm done with this form. So I'm going to move this up and we double click again to create our next segment. So I'm going to name the seller information. And now I'll add my relevant fields. Property listing date. Property. Property condition. Number of stories. All right, area. Date the property was built. Property's estimated worth. Listing price. Oops. Okay. Lowest acceptable price. Whether it's currently occupied. And an additional information field. There we go. And we add our button. So here we'll be adding our save button. And since it saves information for this record, we can check this option over here. You can also choose to set up an email notification or a custom action of your choosing. And we're done with this one. double click to create my next segment, which is my buyer information. Now we add our fields. Residential address. Current residential state. Or lower price limit. Upper price limit. Whether they're pre-approved for mortgage, and area in square feet is required. Alright, and let's add a few more fields. Preferred school district. Property disclosure. Latest property disclosure. Number of bedrooms required. And if they have any other information, additional helpful information. We add our save button here as well. So we'll move on to see how it works, but for now, yeah. So now let's look at connecting all these forms. Yep. There we have it. I'll just move this along to make it look better. So I'm going to deactivate one of my earlier forms. So that's how you deactivate a form. You can also use the trash icon here to delete one of these forms if you do not want them. If you have a large number of forms, you can also filter it based on which forms are inactive or those that are inactive. Ignore my 2 lonesome forms over here. Now let's put this to use. I'm going to go to my deals module and create a new deal. So I'm going to choose my form. Yeah, there we go. And type in my opportunity name. Stage, let's go to qualification. And skip this, then choose account. Closing date, let's hit this and advertisement. Contact name and our estimated end date. Stop here. Now we get to choose whether a deal is a seller or a buyer. And let's say our deal is a seller. So we add in our property details. and add in our property listing date. Whether the property was inspected or not, let's say yes. Number of stories 5. Property condition good. And if it's currently occupied, no. Area in square feet. Let's say 4,500 square feet. And let's say it was built on September 8th. Property's estimated worth 200,000. Listing price lowest acceptable price, and no additional information, or and we hit save, and there you have it. So there are a few other things with respect to wizards. Let me go back to my wizards module. And you can also assign wizards as the default layout for a profile of your choosing. For this, you go to your setup, modules and fields, and select the module. And choose the same for administrator. And save. So back to my deals. And when we create a new deal, I get my default layout as this real estate layout under wizards. So another few things about wizards. So when you make mistakes while creating your wizards, you could get a few error messages, but it'll be hard to spot them. So I'm gonna let you know about a few common error messages that you might get. So if you get the error message of orphan screens, in this case, you get it if one of your screens is not connected with another screen. So if you get a message saying, an error message saying that the save button is not valid, this means that the save button on the screen is set before adding all the system mandatory fields. For example, okay, over here, say I delete my pipeline field and do it. And now I want to save my wizard. Here you see, you get an error saying save button is not valid. So I'll go back and add my pipeline back here. Alright, you might also get errors saying that your buttons are invalid, which says invalid buttons. This happens if your button is not configured to save action, or it's not linked to another screen before you save the wizard. If there's no option to save, this means that a screen doesn't have a save button at all. The error message that says save button is missing. This happens if the save button is not configured before saving the wizard. And the empty wizard error comes when screens are not added to the wizard at all. Duplicate name if the entered wizard name already exists. Mandatory fields missing if the screen does not contain all the mandatory fields and field name is repeated. So this happens if a field is repeated in the screen such that a record creator comes across the field name twice in a path. Alright, now that we are done with wizards, I also wanted to let you know that very recently, in fact yesterday, we've had a few new enhancements in wizards. You can check this out in the community. Let Visit the community from here. So here are the recent enhancements that we have. We have enhancements on the flow update for the source screen, source path field reuse, flow level changes in wizards, and you can now add a widget to the wizard layout, which we saw earlier, filtering wizards from list view, like we saw earlier, inactive and active wizards, and a few other stuff to take a look through it. Do look through it. All right, now let's get into multiple sales pipelines. Multiple sales pipeline is one of the most awaited features of Zoho CRM 2020, and it's available across standard editions and above. Let me start with what a sales pipeline is. Your sales process comprises of multiple stages, and each stage represents a step that your prospects go through in your sales process. Sales pipeline gives a quick overview of where your clients are in a sales process. Note that pipelines need not be used just for sales processes. However, for simplicity's sake, we are considering just as the sales process here. These are the different stages of a sales pipeline. Prospecting. Your sales process starts with prospecting. You generate leads through various channels and build a database of prospects who are interested in your products and services. We then enter the qualification phase. Qualification involves filtering of the right set of prospects that fits your business. Depending upon your sales process, you might want to consider using inbuilt methods like scoring rules to help with your qualification process. The next stage is proposal. While some prospects convert immediately, some might defer their purchase decisions. It's important to engage with them on an ongoing basis. Once the prospect is ready, you issue a proposal. We then move on to the closing stage. At this stage, you'd have gotten a solid understanding of your prospect's requirements and probably have a good idea of which deals will close successfully and which don't. This stage might involve several rounds of negotiation, issuing discounts, agreeing on payment terms, and so on. As you see, starting with lead acquisition, your prospects go through various stages until the deal is finally closed. You can set the stages according to the nature of your CRM business, so your sales and CRM strategy are aligned. All these stages that your prospects go through are visually represented in a sales pipeline. Benefits of a sales pipeline. Sales pipelines help you get a better grasp of what's working better in your sales process and thereby helps you set an efficient sales strategy. The visual representation in a pipeline helps you get a clear understanding of where your leads are currently located in the sales process. A well-managed sales pipeline can help you close more deals in lesser time. Customizing sales pipelines. You can chart down various processes followed in your sales and identify the different sales pipelines required for your sales process. Include only those stages that are relevant for your process. Tracking it using reports and dashboards. Create reports and dashboards to keep a track on your sales pipeline. Use advanced filters to easily zero down on leads within a specific pipeline. For example, you might want to give special attention to the deals that are closing this month. Leverage Zoho AI assistant tool to get suggestions on deals that need your immediate action. Based on your past history, Zia gives a breakup of deals that are likely to be won, lost, or those that could go either way. Finally, you can automate the process of pipeline assignment of deals using workflow rules. If you're still wondering why multiple sales pipelines, let me bring up a few discussions from the community of Zoho CRM customers on the need for multiple sales pipeline and how it helps them. So, like this user has requested, they wanted the ability to have multiple pipelines, as many as the admin or user might want to create. And multiple sales pipeline does exactly this. To sum up, there's no single size that fits all approach to sales and business processes. Factors like products, customer type, demographics, etc., have a bearing on your sales strategy. Some sales processes tend to be longer than others with multiple stages. Some businesses have a combination of B2C and B2B clients. We saw this in the earlier example. It's important that the sales stages in CRM mirror your actual sales processes. Having a single sales pipeline is a limitation, and we've had many feature requests in our community to manage multiple sales pipeline processes in Zoho CRM. MSP helps you do that. Now that we've discussed the need for multiple sales pipeline, let's move on to the demo. Let's consider the case of Zilker Real Estate Company. Now, Zilker sells different types of residential and commercial properties. As every sales process is different, putting all the deals through a single pipeline will not give a clear understanding of Zilker's sales pipeline. Therefore, Zilker needs to create different sales pipelines depending upon the nature of properties to show their deals that are progressing. This helps us identify what is working and what is not and helps Zilker optimize their sales efficiently. Multiple sales pipelines can also be found under customization, under your setup. Okay. You can choose the option here to create a new pipeline. I have a few pipelines already created, but I'll show you how it works. So you can choose the layout for which you want to create a pipeline as well. So now say we offer different kinds of properties. Large villas and mansions, condos for customers with a higher budget, and properties on lease, apartments for sale, and small 2 and 3 bedroom houses for those on a smaller budget. So without multiple sales pipeline, a few of our problems are that without pipelines, our deal stages are not defined. which means that even though different sales pipelines go through different stages, your record details page will list an undefined mess of all your stages combined. And without our historical analysis, we'll just keep repeating mistakes that may have caused us to lose deals in the past without knowing what hit us. So let's create a pipeline. Now, by default, your first pipeline of layout is going to be your standard pipeline. Now, the standard pipeline is a system defined standard pipeline and will be associated with all the records in the deals module. Now, this is done to make sure that every single deal is associated to at least one pipeline. The standard pipeline will be created with the stages that are present in the stage picklist field. You can also rename and customize this pipeline to meet your requirements. The standard pipeline will not be created if you do not have any records in the layout, or if there's no blueprint created for your stage field. Let me create a new pipeline over here. And I'm gonna name my new pipeline mansion. For my real estate layout, you can choose the layout that you want to apply this pipeline for here. And you can start adding your stages: qualification, negotiation, needs analysis, property visit, creating close one, close last, inspection. And you can also add new stages here as well. So here you can see all the stages that are already there. So let's add a stage called in escrow. And probability, say 80%. Let's leave the forecast type as open and forecast category as pipeline. And save. So you also have an option to set one of these pipelines as the default pipeline. I'm going to go with this for now. We have a condo, we have a mansion, rental, and add our status, means qualification, proposal, negotiation review, closed one, closed last, property visit, and I'll create a new stage, perhaps open house in progress. Probability, let's say 25%, and let's leave it open. And our focus category, let it be pipeline. You can choose to set as default if you'd like, but there we go. Now, you can choose to modify any of your pipelines here later on. You can also choose to remove stages just like that using this X here. You can also choose to reorder them if you'd like. But now let's go on and see our pipelines in action. I'm going to go to my deals module. So I prefer to use the Kanban view to get the most out of multiple sales pipelines. You can click on it using this, and here you have your Kanban view. As you can see, it lists all our deals based on its different stages. You can also filter it based on the pipeline that you wish. For example, I'm going to filter it using my standard layout and my standard pipeline. And you can sort it based on any of your stages here, based on any of your fields. But yeah, that you have it. You can also change your Kanban view settings over here, but that's up to you. All right. Now let's create a new sales pipeline. Let's create a new deal. We'll call property valuation right here is let's say 150,000. Next step. I'm going to leave that empty. I'm going to add my amount 150,000 as well, and closing date. So as you can see, our standard pipeline is chosen by default here, but we also had our checkbox to choose another pipeline as the default. It's a qualification stage, I'll leave it be. But you can choose the pipeline that you want. So in case you won't choose the pipeline for private villa, you only, as you can see, for standard, for lease, you get only that are listed under lease, and for private villa, you get only stages listed under private villa. So I'm going to go with my standard module just by default and leave it at qualification and estimated end date 30th, and let's save this. Now I've created a multiple sales pipeline for a deal size of 150,000, and I've chosen the standard pipeline. But now say that I want to default my deals that come in for over 100,000 to be, say, my villa pipeline. We can automate this process by setting up workflow rules for multiple sales pipelines. So you go back and go to automation workflow rules. I'm just going to deactivate one of my old rules and I'll create a new rule for multiple sales pipeline. So you choose the module. I'm going to choose the deals module that's with respect to my multiple sales pipelines. Rule name, pipeline assign for deals. So I'm going to execute this rule on the creation of a deal, And I'll do this when, say, my amount is greater than 100,000 euros. There we go. And on this, I want to choose field updates. So I'm going to create a new update. Private villa. Default stage qualification stage. Save and associate. And I won't save this one. So now when you create a new deal, for evaluation 150,000 amount. Deal amount will be 1,000 and your closing date is on the 30th. And save it. This is review process. I will talk about this later, but for now, you can see that the record is created and the pipeline has been changed to private villa based on the workflow that we have created. You can also see that the only stages available are those that are under private villa. And there you have it. So apart from your Kanban view, you can also track your pipelines on your dashboards as well. It might also be available as analytics here. So deals in pipeline, deals by stages, all of it. You can also add more components, but I think I've reached my component limit. The thing about deleting multiple sales pipelines is that you cannot just delete it as you wish. There are a lot of records associated to it. So if you want to delete your pipelines, you have to go back to your pipelines here. Do not really need this. So when you want to delete a single pipeline, you'll have to also transfer all the data that you have to another pipeline before you delete it. You'll also have to map the stages from the old pipeline to the new one over here, and then you can transfer and delete. Also know that when a layout is deleted, you can choose the layout to move the records to. If the layout the records are being moved to has an existing pipeline, then you can choose the pipeline and the stage the records from the deleted layout will be transferred to. Closed deals from the deleted layout will be transferred to the default pipeline of the new layout. Alright, so with respect to multiple sales pipelines, you can also easily use advanced filters to zero down on your deals. For example, you might want to give special attention to the deals that are closing this month. So closing date is in the between 31st, and you can also filter by pipelines. So my standard order, and there we go. And so you can really focus your attention on just these deals that seem to be more important. As I said earlier, remember that a pipeline is layout specific and the stages in it are specific to a particular pipeline. Pipeline and stage fields can also be updated using your macros, blueprints, and follow-up actions after sending mass emails. Let's move on to the last topic of the day, review process. To understand the concept of why we brought in review process in Zoho CRM, let's go back to the same example of our Zilker real estate company. Apart from the sales generated leads that are added manually, Zilker CRM receives leads from multiple other channels, especially property listing sites. Enquiries from these channels are pushed into Zoho CRM automatically. As Zilker has no control over the data that comes from third-party sources, they face the risk of letting in records with inaccurate or missing data into Zoho CRM. Now, Zilker runs the risk of providing bad quality leads to its sales reps, which takes a lot of time and resources. For example, in the case of the real estate CRM, property valuation or rent is one of the most important fields in CRM. Zilker can set up a review process to approve all these records whose valuation is not within the guideline range for that respective city. It's just a one-off example, and the criteria can be customized based on your business needs. As you can see, now this ensures that sales reps do not spend extra time curating records with poor data, time that can be spent on better tasks. Manually reviewing such data is clearly not a scalable solution, both in terms of time as well as accuracy. Enter review process. Review process in Zoho CRM helps you validate incoming data at the field level. It acts as a gatekeeper that pushes invalid data entering CRM from across channels for approval. This ensures that sales team gets only good quality data to act upon. The best part of this is that the records pending reviews are stored in CRM, and CRM based automations like workflows are initiated only when the record gets updated and approved. Like workflow rules, you can also configure review process to validate data entry coming in from these sources. Manual addition of sales generated leads, web forms that allows prospect to enter sensitive information themselves, customer portals where your prospects and customers get limited access to add or edit data, where the data gets pushed through APIs, and lastly through third-party sources or applications. Barring manual creation, there is no control on the data entering the system. That is the gap that the newly introduced review process fills. Now you see a simple review process here. Let me explain a few specifics before I show how to set up a review process and demonstrate how it works. Customize the review process according to your business needs. You can choose to review every record that enters your system or only those records that meet the specified criteria. Here I've used a criteria. Reviewing all fields is cumbersome. Select only those fields that impact your business process for review. Here I've chosen for if the property valuation is above 100,000 euros and if the property mortgage is marked as not. Set specific users, roles, groups, or record owners as reviewers. I have chosen a single user here. Configure actions to be performed when a record is submitted for review or when a review is completed. For example, trigger an email notification when a record is submitted for review. You also have the option to mark reasons for rejection and customize your own rejection messages. The quality of data entering CRM gets to improve vastly as the records go through a field by field review process. This will ensure that your sales team gets quality data, making them much more efficient. Now let's implement our review process. In line to our real estate business, let's look at a scenario that suits our industry. The most crucial data errors that cost us a lot of business are ones such as property valuation and perhaps confirming if the property is indeed mortgage free. So today let's look at creating review processes to eliminate chances of errors in these domains. You can find your review process under process management and under setup, right under approval processes. I have a few review processes already set up. I'm going to create a new process, however. So I'm going to name this one estate review. I'm going to create this one for my deals module and I'll stick to my standard layout. And here we get to start adding our conditions. So I'm going to list probably around 3 to 4 conditions. First, that property valuation is greater than 100,000 euros, or if the mortgage property is listed as yes, in which case we have to confirm if it really is no, if it really isn't mortgaged, and we can add more criteria. Let's say if the owner lists that the property is in excellent condition, then we'll need to review that as well. Let's also get it reviewed if we have a buyer as a deal who is pre-approved for mortgage. So I'm going to make sure that this process comes into effect if either of these criteria are met. And now we get to choose which fields needs to be reviewed. I'm going to go with the original fields that I've chosen here. Evaluation. And condition of property. There we go. You can either choose for a sub criteria to ensure that only certain records go under review based on particular fields, but I'm going to just go with all my records here. And now we choose our reviewers. I'm going to add a couple of reviews here, and you can also add instant actions. So here you can choose your action notifications for sending notification on the submission of record, for sending notification on review completion, sending notification on rejection. I think I'll pass that. SLA escalation. Now this is quite useful. So if the record isn't reviewed in say 10 to 15 days, you can choose for it to be escalated to another reviewer. There we go. You also have the option to configure reasons for record rejection. So we already have some default values here: invalid entry, data insufficient, data does not match, but you can also add custom reasons or you can remove ones you do not like. I'm quite happy with these, so I'll save my review process. Now let's see how this works. Let's create a new deal. Going to my deals module and creating a new record. Property valuation, let's give it 200,000. Mortgage property, no. Condition of the property, that's good. And closing date on the 30th. Stage needs analysis. Yeah, this works. And let's save this deal. As you can see, it says that the record has entered review, and you can review this record in deals in review custom view. So you can directly go ahead and approve or reject these fields if you'd like, and you are the reviewer. Or you can also view all the records that are listed under your review process in your My Jobs module. Here you can select a record with pending for review status and click on the icon to either approve or reject it. You can also add a comment as to why you're approving or rejecting it. Mostly works for rejection. I'm just going to go ahead and approve all these fields. There we go. Note that a record is considered as rejected if one field is rejected by the reviewer, and the reviewer can reject a record even without reviewing some fields. Now you have Adrian Lewis in your deals module. Also, you can check out your reviewing history by going to the record, over here, and you have your review history over here, which gives you a whole timeline of this record has spent in the review process. Now you can also check out your entire review process analytics under four kinds of reports that we have. For this, you just go back to your review processes and you have your review analytics over here. So these are the four reports that we have. Average time waiting by review processes. This lets you identify delays or stagnancies in review process by observing the average waiting period for a record in review process. There you go. Your field status by record count. This lists your fields that underwent the review process and the number of fields that were approved and rejected in the process. There you go. Review status history. Total number of records at different review statuses. Here you have the records that are unreviewed, that are reviewed. If you have records that are rejected or pending for review, you'll see that here as well. Or those that are in progress. And your records reasons for rejection history. Well, this one shows you the data on the records that are rejected in the past under your review processes and why they were rejected. Since we have no records that have been rejected, it shows a blank here. But as you keep reviewing, you'll have your data shown here. Back to our review processes. You can delete review processes that you do not want here, or you can also filter them here by module or by status. And if more than one are active, you can reorder the processes that you want here by using this option. A few points to remember with respect to review processes. Record is considered to be rejected even if it's just one of the fields that's rejected by the reviewer. The same types of fields in a subform can also be submitted for review. Review process is module and layout specific like we showed earlier. If you have enabled the web form approval option, then the records will enter the review process after the web form approval is completed. Information sync from one Zoho application to CRM and vice versa, such as Zoho Desk to Zoho CRM, Zoho Creator to Zoho CRM, and likewise will take place only after the record completes the review process. Review process will not be executed if version 1 API is used. Thank you everyone for joining the focus group webinar on building customer foundation in Zoho CRM today. We hope you've gotten quite a good grasp on wizards, multiple sales pipelines, and review process. We're now going to open the floor to questions, and our panel of experts are here to take any questions you have, so feel free to keep using the chat interface to keep your questions coming. Thank you.